All right, now. Yay.
Alrighty. Good morning, Ruth. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. We lived through the blizzard yesterday, so if we have any
Wow.
kind of glitches today, it might be because there's still about 2 feet of snow, 3 feet in some drift areas out there.
Yeah, and I apparently have some ghosts in my computer today, so we'll just go with it. We're talking about fun stuff anyway, so maybe this is just to get us in a playful kind of mood, right?
We're talking about fun stuff, and I think, it's so fitting for finding your new normal of learning how to just go with it sometimes.
Our lesson for the day.
There it is. Just
Mhm.
learn how to go with it. But I'm
Right.
excited because as you taught me, and it's so well known out there, playing is such a big part of brain health and brain recovery. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you. And I thought there was going to be another one in there. So it's a big part of brain health and brain recovery. And I think that sometimes, whether it's playing a game or sitting down and doing a project, we'll make it a bigger deal in our minds than it has to be. Oh, I don't have time to play this, or I don't have that kind of whatever.
Right.
And learning to play games and just play for fun with brain health is a great way to embrace your child, your inner child again. So we get to talk about that today. And
Oh, cool. All of our favorite topics: laughter, love, happiness, and play, right?
as I'm sitting here underneath the camera, I've been doing this.
That's great. That's great. Let's focus on a little bit laughter, just a little bit of laughter to start out with, as if we haven't done that already today, right?
You never have too much laughter, though.
All right. Yeah. So we're going to start with a deep breath in, deep cleansing breath in, to hold it at the top and just totally feel that joy raining down. Feel the energy raining down and turn that energy into joy as you exhale, rain down through your entire body. And then pull it back in, deep breath in, let it rain down, turn that energy into joy and happiness and laughter. And then as you exhale, say, ha, 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 ha. Pull that energy in with a deep breath. Let it rain down, and then exhale with a ha, 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 ha. Really hard not to continue it. Take a deep breath in. And let that laughter build up from the top of your head all the way down to your toes, and then release it. And as we always do, Mary, we devolve into laughter, don't we? I mean, our conversations end usually at some point. There is great laughter.
There is. So, there is always great laughter. So
I am so excited about talking about, to talk about play today, and to talk about all of those things that make us smile, and how you can feed your brain during recovery and beyond. And wherever you are in development, games and play and laughter is wonderful.
Well, they've often said that if it feels like play, you're more likely to do it too.
Right. Yeah. Oftentimes, I think the other thing that's important to remember about play is that play is a way to involve other people.
Yes.
Too. So we talk about this cross-functioning in the brain.
Yes.
We're activating emotional areas. We're activating cognitive areas. We're doing all of those things, and we're feeding ourselves with those, with our trifecta of joy: serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine. And how much better does that get, except when we hit that level of love and we get the small bath of oxytocin, right?
Exactly. I used to say, as you know, both of my girls had sensory sensitivity issues, and so they were treated at the Children's Hospital for several years. And when you went in, their big workout, if you will, was a large room that I said they used to be able to, they could rent it out for corporate parties. Just put a margarita machine in the corner because the kids got to, they could go in and design their own playground that included swings and ropes. And at the very end, they always ended up jumping into a huge ball pit. They would swing from a rope and land in the ball pit. I mean, and every time it was different. So they had to create the design. They sketched it out on the chalkboard. And then it was always so much fun. And to the girls, they never realized that they were doing sensory work.
Right.
It became that. So do we have Mr. Bill, who was their therapist? Do we have Mr. Bill today? Not today.
Mr. Bill. Mr.
Bill.
That brings memories too. So I wonder, I mean, wouldn't it be cool if there were an adult playground like that? An adult sensory playland. And I'm not talking, there's a difference between that kind of thing and Disneyland, for example, where you have sensory overload. Just the right amount of sensory stimulation, just that right amount of, just the correct amount of chemicals that zip through your body.
It's customizable too.
Customizable. I love this whole idea. I think we've hit on a new business model. And before we go too far down that rabbit hole,
exactly.
Do you want to introduce something? Because we could.
We're going to.
We were about to.
Yeah. And part of that segue was so many of the things that I had in my house I used for my girls. After my last brain injury, it helped me, and you helped me realize that I could take those same things that I had used with them to help me start to recover from brain injury. So we'll start by me sharing just a very simple one that even my daughter explained to me. This is one of the ones that came out of their sensory box, and the whole part was you have to get the right rhythm going to get it to clack. And so it's a double-edged one. It's tiny.
Right.
And it also desensitizes to the noise. And it can seem very simple there. I did it. I'm usually not really good at this one.
Well, you know what that does? It's also a great motor exercise because you're working on coordination, and you've got something out in front of you that you're manipulating. So you're activating all of those areas of your brain as well. I think, and your daughter made this point, Lexi made this point. It's that the clack desensitizes. Yeah. It diffuses. And I think we disregard that way too often. We can break the tension of some kind of sensory overload or whatever's happening by a sudden noise or a flash of a light. Just an opening and a closing. Okay, we're starting new right now. Mm-hmm. And that's something you can do for yourself. That's very cool. Thank her for it.
I will.
All of us, because that's really important.
It was a good choice on her part. And thank you for that additional information. I mean, I really do like that one. It's a simple one, and you can do it at your desk. How about you? What do you like to play with, Ruth?
Okay, so I have a bunch of board games and a bunch of, this one's not technically a board game. This is called Shut the Box. It's a really old game, and it's a dice game. So what this does is it allows you to work on mental skills. So object of this game, I don't know if I can do it at an angle, is you roll the dice, and on my dice came up, I've got a 3 and a 1, so that's a 4. The object is to get all of these numbers to flip up. So I'm going to flip up a 4. Okay? So I'm using that cognitive process. I'm being strategic because now I've got a 6 and a 4 and I've got a 10. What am I most likely to use and least likely to use? So do I pick the 9 and the 1, or do I pick the 8 and the 2? I'm going to pick a 7 and a 3. Okay?
Okay.
So you're doing strategy. You've got a manipulative with dice. You've got to flip this up. So you're working on so many levels, and you're playing with somebody else, and it's a really simple game. You can actually play by yourself.
Yes.
It's one of those, and you've got the sensory break.
Perfect.
And another sensory break, with noises.
I like
So
those kinds.
Shut the Box is amazing. And I think this game came out in like the 20s or 30s. Old game, old.
Some of those old games are the best. Absolutely
Yeah.
best. Well, and speaking of old games, here's one it's very simple. It's one of those
I love it.
you try and get the little balls into the different little holes, and this one it's a dual purpose one, so there's a dial on the bottom of him, and you can move his tongue around because you want to try and get the balls into his mouth. So it's a double one. And it's one of those ones again that you're not spending a lot of time working the game. So it
right
in between calls, or you just need to take a moment from your work, whatever work you're doing, and rest your brain, but you're working your brain in a different way.
Can I tell you a secret? A couple times a week, I have groups of people that I work with, and you and I always have cameras on when we Skype, but there are a couple of groups that I work with where we don't have cameras on. Frequently, I use fidgets, especially when somebody is saying something that I want to react to.
Yes.
So they're I like to think of them as focusing tools. A friend of mine gave me that whole concept. It's a focusing tool, like you've got right there, pulling on, something that focuses your attention somewhere else. When you feel it bubbling up, games and play and fidgets are an amazing way to do that. You're feeding so many parts of you.
In this case, it's tactile.
Yeah.
Also working my muscles, so I am putting some energy elsewhere. It's just fun to hold. It does hold my attention. I still do. I have a whole box of fidgets, and we've discussed this. I think you've seen my box of fidgets for that very reason.
I love your box of fidgets. Yeah. I can't wait to visit your box of fidgets.
When I was homeschooling my kids, that was what we did. Because if you look around at any kind of a meeting, you'll find people doing this or tapping their foot. And it's a physical way of holding their focus. They may try.
And I think it's not necessarily, it doesn't take all of your focus away. It takes your focus and diverts your attention slightly, and it diffuses. It diffuses sensory overload. It diffuses emotional overload. It diffuses, if you're in a meeting and your brain is going down a certain track, and that's not the most productive rabbit hole to jump down, you can easily use a focusing tool to divert your attention temporarily, get you back on track.
It keeps, one of my understandings, and you can speak to this better, is that when we do have small fidgets, especially after a brain injury, I call it parking my brain. There were times that I would park my brain, and there were times that I couldn't afford to park my brain. So it helps keep your brain from going into the beta waves, is my understanding. So it keeps your brain engaged, and then easier to come back to whatever it is at hand.
Right. Yes. And sometimes that's possible. Sometimes it's possible when you see the wall right here and you're about to hit it, if you can stop it before you hit the wall. Once you hit that wall, it's over. There's no coming back, especially you've used that cognitive reserve, you're done. There are things like I usually have pocket rocks. So this, for example, this is a nice little smooth stone, and I'll reach in my pocket and rub my thumb on it just to pull me back to, okay, I know I'm about to hit the wall. Take a deep breath. See if you can pull out a little bit more. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not, and it's okay to not have it be there too. I think that's part of my new normal, is knowing when it's okay not to find anything extra. When all I really want to do is stare at that wall, that's okay.
Exactly. That is okay. And I know that for me, it's also okay to say that if I have a day that I feel like I haven't even done anything that would justify hitting that wall, as we talked about yesterday, I think it was, and I was saying I was having a bad brain day. And I need to find a different way to describe that, because it labels it in a way that I don't like. But if I'm having a rougher brain day, it's okay to say, you know what? Let's find a different flow. Stop trying to break down the wall.
Right.
Find a different flow. And bringing it back to games. Games is a great way to do that then. So
yeah.
Also,
okay, so I've got a crazy one.
Okay.
This one's called Lift It. Okay?
Okay.
Lift It. So hang on one second, because you need to bear with me on this one. This one is highly interactive, and it requires you to use things that you're putting on your head. Okay? And I'm gonna attach a hook to my head.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm going to pick up the pieces and move them around with my head. You put them.
Oh, this is fabulous.
Yeah. So there are all kinds of, this actually goes like this. I did it wrong. So tell me what I'm doing here, Mary. What am I activating?
I'm looking at the visual. In terms of a visual exercise.
So my goal here is to take this, and I need to pick this piece up with my little hook.
Wow.
And sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. And you have cards that have you build things out of circles that the hooks pick up. So I draw a card from the stack, and I need to create this by lifting up the pieces. So you're recreating this, an incredibly difficult, didn't show real well here, but it's hysterical as well.
That
very fun to play with your adult children.
Really challenging too.
Yeah.
But I see that also as, again, where my mind went was, if you're having a hard time with convergence, bringing your eyes to work together.
Yes.
That is an ideal activity and exercise, because you're really having to work both eyes together to create a picture.
Well, and that helps with depth perception. Yep. That helps with all kinds of things. And something that I realized the other day that we don't talk about enough, and that's the midline.
Yep. Yes.
So we have this midline in our bodies. This kind of game allows you to cross that midline. Yeah. And the more you cross the midline, the more your brain is working together. So if you can do things, and we should do this next week with with our centering exercise, we'll cross the midline physically, side to side. And great point about convergence. A lot of people with brain injury, and I know this because it happened to me, and this is, and then I realized that it wasn't that weird. I had this chunk of my visual field that was missing. And we realized the severity and the depth of my brain injury when I went to get a new pair of glasses, because my glasses broke in the accident. I needed a new pair of glasses. So I went in, and that little, you tap the button when you see a flashing light.
Yes.
There was a chunk of my visual field that was missing. And that was one of our clues. So when you're missing parts of your visual field, you need to figure out ways to retrain that. There's a therapy called behavioral optometry that's amazing. However, not everybody has access to behavioral optometry. Everybody's got access to lift.
That's wonderful. And that was one thing actually that I'm aware of, because even long before my brain injury, I was diagnosed as not having, I had limited 3D perception. So I've always had a hard time seeing things in 3D. And that's actually what they believe caused my first concussion. Was I rode my bike across the road. I misjudged how far away the car was. I couldn't tell. And they were closer than I realized, and I was hit. So one of the things that I actually, speaking of childhood games, the old Viewmasters, that was one of the exercises that I had to do, was just look at those. And that's another way of game. And they have all sorts of wonderful ones, so you don't feel so childlike. You can see the national parks through a Viewmaster. And
Exactly. Well, what behavioral optometry does is somebody came up with these prismatic
Both of my
glasses,
girls wore them.
and you do exercises with the prismatic glasses on, and that simulates depth
Both
perception.
of my girls, in fact, let's see. Oh, I thought one of these pictures had them in their glasses. Both of them were diagnosed by a behavioral ophthalmologist or optometrist out here. Both had vision problems, and so they both wore glasses with prisms for several years, and it was wonderfully helpful. So I wanted to share another game in terms of vision and what helps us kind of cross the midline, if you will. This is a game called Who Knew? And there are different little cards on here, and each card looks the same. It has different colors, but if you look, can you identify which color is not correctly identified? Doesn't match up with the color it's supposed to be written in. So the name,
White. Yeah. And that one is white, right? Oh no, white, red, blue. So what am I don't understand the.
You have, okay, you're looking for the two that are actually, I'm sorry, the two that match up to what they are. So
oh, okay, because most of them did not. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't get the directions. That's a good point, though. It's okay to make up your own.
It
right?
is. And in some cases, they all match up correctly. But what you have then is in this case, so I believe it was
blue, and green. Blue is in blue and green is in green.
Blue is in blue and green is in green. Green is in green, but it's green and orange. Again.
Oh.
Blue is written.
Oh, that's pink at the bottom. That's pink. I thought that was blue. It was a 4-letter word.
Right, and that's the challenge.
Isn't that interesting? I saw the color blue. The word is pink. That first letter is round. My brain filled it in. How interesting is that? Yeah. Very good game. I need to try this one.
You have these little discs or these little figures that all match the colors. And so as soon as you identify it, you grab the pieces that match. And you want to be the first to get colors.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very cool. So I've got another one. This one is called Tapple. So, and I should have pulled this out beforehand. Sorry about that. In this game, you pull a card, and you've got to think of a name. You know, the cards are all topics. So you have to. You go around the circle, and if our topic is color, we would need to think of a color that starts with D, dark green, and then I would put that down. We've got the timer on, and you've got to go around the circle before it ends. Or okay, so we've got blue, we've got aquamarine, we've got taupe. So you need to challenge yourself to think of all of those, and each person taps the letter as you go around the circle.
And again, and that's Tapple?
Pardon me, Tapple. Okay. Tapple. Yeah, brand new game. Yeah, this one, we just found this one recently at one of those crazy game stores, and I love this game. It's hysterical to play with a group.
Oh, how fun. How fun.
Yeah, yeah.
And again,
that's a good one. That's a good one. Can I throw another one in? Another word game in? Okay, this one is called Quick Cubes, and what it is you've got this helps with sentences and with sentence structure and word finding. So you have all of these different wooden cubes. You roll them out, and I rolled my cubes out, and I've got start, young, hand, us, Okay, so I need to make a sentence, or I need to start a story with this. There are tons of ways you can do this. There's a board that comes with it that is like a Scrabble board where you lay out the words, lay out the sentences. However, I like to use this as an idea starter. So I'll take, there's a ton of cubes here. Yeah. And then I've got a star, which is a wild card. I've not told you a fine start to my young story as I wave my hand. That's what.
How
That's what I came up with that. So, it doesn't need to make sense. It just needs to trigger.
Exactly.
Right?
It just needs to trigger. And it's, speaking of word games, I'll share one that I enjoy a lot. And it's called In a Pickle.
Oh, yeah. This is awesome.
And you're looking for things. I'm going to hold up the back of the game really quick, where the whole objective is there are cards that are played. You have 4 different piles around the table, and you want to be the first to finish off the row of 4. And you're looking for things that fit in. So you have to be creative and original. So in this example, baby fits in a bathtub, fits in the house, fits in Hollywood. Or in this one, it's the juice is in the pickle, which is in the supermarket, which is in the parking lot.
That's great.
And some of them get fun.
Yeah. Creative, get it moving, get it going. And sometimes post brain injury, you just need that spark.
You just need the spark.
And that, and if you add a smile and a little bit of laughter and a little bit of interaction with people that you enjoy, all the better, right?
All the better. And sometimes, I will say on that, sometimes you're not willing to put yourself out there, as you know, necessarily publicly. So I like the handheld games. These are the old-fashioned. This is
cool. Yeah.
Tetris.
Yeah.
I hate Tetris. I hate it because, again, with my lack of kind of 3D vision, I have a really hard time with visual spatial games. But that doesn't mean I shouldn't try them. It doesn't mean I shouldn't work their part.
That's right. It means you should try them.
Try them. And it is a challenge for me. So I'll go off someplace privately because I can collapse as many as I want or need to and miss the point, but try again.
Right. I'm going to, very quickly, because we're running out of time, I want to talk about games on, interactive games on like an iPad.
Yes.
So on this iPad, I have all kinds of interactive games. I think that it's important to focus on the fact that you can do these on your own. You can pick games that allow you to work on certain skills. There is value in playing solitaire on the computer or on an iPad.
Yes.
There is much value to playing solitaire on a computer or on a device because, you're breaking your rhythm, you're distracting yourself. You can almost get into a meditative kind of state. We talk about walking meditation. You can do that same kind of thing. I hate to admit this publicly, but I play Candy Crush.
Oh,
I know that is not a popular, in our intellectual circles, that is not a popular thing to do or say. However, it's a challenge. I know that I can't always win. Mm-hmm. So it's not always me. Sometimes it's the game. Mm-hmm. On the iPad, I play this game called Bubble Shooter that is the same kind of game that you're talking about. It's a Tetris type of game where you've got to match colors and then they disappear.
I love that.
So it's strategic, it's colors, it's interactive, it distracts you. It allows you to shut your brain down. It gives you that moment to breathe.
Exactly. And I think that sometimes we forget to do that too. We know that when we exercise, when we've done a hard workout, sometimes our muscles need rest. I think that we forget that, especially in the recovery process, our brain needs time to rest at times.
Yes.
And it's okay to just do this and let it go and stare at that wall.
Or play with your marbles, or or roll something in your fingers, or stare off into space for a minute. Give yourself that brain break.
We underestimate.
And on that note,
have
a wonderful rain day.
You too. It's been so quick, but thank you for sharing games.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. This was fun.
This was fun. All righty. Bye-bye.